Hey everybody, today I'm going to be making crushed red pepper. So what I'm going to do is take all of the hot peppers that we've collected this year from our garden, from our greenhouse. I've been keeping those in the freezer until we were done growing peppers. And now we're going to dehydrate them and make them into crushed red pepper. Well, I've got about a gallon, maybe a little bit more than a gallon of peppers here. This is a mixture of super chilies, serrano peppers, and cayenne peppers. We've used peppers throughout the season for seasoning our foods or giving to the birds, and I'll get into why we give hot peppers to our birds in a little bit. But we have everything that we need for red peppers or hot peppers. I'm going to be making crushed red pepper, and some of that's going to be used for us and for like seasoning. Marilyn has a great hot honey recipe that she just recently, or maybe a year ago, did a video on. I'll make sure to put that in the description. But we use crushed red pepper a lot, but not as much as our chickens do. So I wasn't sure where to categorize this video. Is this a culinary type video, or is this a chicken video? And I'm going to say for us it's more of a chicken video because they eat a lot more of this than we do. The reason we give our birds crushed red peppers is because it's a great anti-parasitic supplement that we can add in with their calcium or with their protein, like whether we're giving them black fly larvae, and we did a video on all about black soldier fly larvae, and I'll link to that as well if you want to check that out, but which is an awesome supplement. But we use this as kind of like a dewormer for the chickens, and it works great, and the chickens love it. Chickens don't taste heat, or actually birds don't taste heat. So a pepper that would swell up your throat and send you to the hospital is perfectly fine for giving to your birds. The parasites don't like it either, but the birds do. So anyway, like I said, I've got a little over a gallon here. What we're going to do is we're going to start prepping these. I don't like to dehydrate the peppers whole because it takes longer. I'm going to slice these in half, seeds and all. We're going to put them in our dehydrator and get the ball rolling. Okay, I've got my nitrile gloves on for everybody who's freaked out by me cutting peppers without gloves. Something you may want to consider, cutting the peppers isn't going to necessarily burn your hands, but later in the day, even 12 times you've washed your hands, you'll touch your eyes and you'll remember that you were cutting hot peppers. So it may be something you want to do. And just remember, just because I have gloves on, I'm not going to touch my eyes while wearing the gloves. So here's the serrano pepper. I'm going to start just by cutting this right in half. And I'm going to keep it, seeds and all. And this is just going to help it dehydrate a little bit faster because the liquid is going to have a chance to not be just trapped under the skin. It's going to come out where it's been cut. So I'm going to cut all of my peppers the same way. Here's a cayenne pepper, and I'm just going to cut that one lengthwise as well. Okay, and this is one of our super chilies. I'm going to cut that right up the middle. And I'm just going to process all of my peppers the same way. I'm just going to cut them in half. Once all that's done, we'll move them to the dehydrator, and I'll show you what we're doing from there. I'm just finishing up the last of these. I didn't think it was ever going to end. I had a lot of peppers to finish this year. I've also got some red peppers too that we pulled just before our first frost, and what I cleaned out of the greenhouse when the plants all started to just die off from the winter. But you want to make sure to save enough of this stuff so that you could make sriracha sauce, or that you can make pickled peppers, or you can add it to your relishes or tomato sauces, anything that you're going to be making where you want to have fresh peppers. Of course, when it's all finished, you can always use the crushed red pepper, but to make sriracha and to get the fermentation to work correctly, try to use fresh peppers. And if you want a great recipe, check out mine. I made a video on that. I'll put that down in the description below. But I've got 8 trays. I crammed them. I have a 9-tray Excalibur that I'm going to be using to dehydrate. The very bottom tray I'm leaving empty, and I just put a silicone mat on that. And that's so any of the seeds, and I've already got seeds on it, any of the seeds that fall through during dehydration are just going to land on this and not make a big mess on the bottom of my dehydrator. So anyway, I'm going to get all this loaded up. I'm going to set the temperature to 125, 130, and it can take up to 24 hours for these to finish. You don't want them to be crispy, but you do want them to be leathery, a little bit more than leathery. And once they're at that stage, I'll show you, and we'll move on to the final stage of grinding them up. Excuse me. It's getting spicy in here. And that also reminds me, if you're going to be doing this, don't necessarily dehydrate these in a room that's occupied a lot. You may mace everybody in the house by doing this. I believe it's called capsaicin, the oils and the chemicals that create the heat. Once these are dehydrating, there's going to be a lot of heat in the air, irritating. You could walk into the room where the dehydrator's running, and it may make your eyes burn a little bit. It may make your throat a little bit dry, so your coffee. It depends on how badly you react to high temperatures. I also have to make sure that I clean up my area really good because we have cats and dogs, and I don't want them getting into any seeds that hit the floor. These are really pretty hot peppers. They're not going to be in any kind of a chip challenge, but they're very hot, very spicy, and the cat won't like to lick one of these up. I can guarantee it. So let me get the dehydrator set up, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got the dehydrator set up in our pantry here. It's a little cold, a little humid in here, so it may take a little bit longer. But like I said, it could take up to 24 hours. I'm going to check it in 8 hours and see how it is. If they're not done, I'm probably just going to go to bed and check them in the morning. So I'm going to set this for 125, 130. It's going to vary on your dehydrator, so make sure to look up temperatures and times just to see what your dehydrator is going to be used for. And like I said, just be aware that this may put off fumes like pepper spray that are going to annoy people's eyes or skin. And if you're sensitive to that, normally I would be doing this outside. But here in New England, we've been well below zero most days, and it's rainy, and it's snowy, and it's windy, and those are all reasons I don't want to put my dehydrator outside. Otherwise, that's where I'd be doing this. So we'll check on this a little bit later tonight, or possibly in the morning. I'll show you what the finished peppers look like, and then we'll grind those up into our finished product. Well, I checked on the peppers last night and they weren't quite ready, so I let them go overnight. It's been 24 hours, so we'll see how they're doing. With this dehydrator, you want to make sure to shut it off before you open the door, or it's just going to blow all this in your face. And that wouldn't be a good thing with these peppers. I want to test one of the larger ones. And they look good. All right, I'm just going to unpack all this, bring it into the kitchen, and we'll get a better look at it there. So the next thing I need to do is just take them out of the dehydrator. And carefully, I'm just going to put them, I'm going to use my food processor to grind these up, but you can use a blender, a food processor, a coffee mill, however you want to do it. I don't know if I would do this by hand because it's going to kick up some very spicy dust. If you don't mind sneezing a lot, have at it. Do Do it however you want. But I'm gonna do this the automated way. And then pro tip, after you're done grinding these up in the blender or food processor, just shut it off, leave the lid on, and let it sit for a good 10-15 minutes so that the dust inside can settle. Because if you just walk over to it when it's done and pull the lid off, I can guarantee you're gonna get maced. So let me get all of these into the food processor and then we'll move on to grinding them up. Well, we ended up with about 12 cups of red peppers. I still have the green ones set aside. I know I could probably just put them all together. The chickens don't really care. I don't really care, but somewhere in my mind, crushed red pepper is just red peppers. So I'll do the green ones separate and I'll use those for something else. But what I'm gonna do, I just got my food processor set to low. I'm gonna pulse this and just keep an eye on it. I want them to be evenly broken up to shaker size, sort of like what you would get when you buy crushed red pepper. So I'll get that started and I'll show you what we're left with, because it's gonna go from 12 cups probably down to about 6. We'll see. All right, I'm just gonna fill these up. These are half-pint jars that we use as our seasoning. You may have seen them along our back counter. We put all of the seasonings that we make in this size jar. It's a handy size. And since it came out to about 5 cups, so I was close, a little bit less than I thought. But between 2 pint size and a half pint, we should be able to fit all of this. So I'm just going to very carefully, and if you're sensitive to heat at all, you may want to put a mask on for this. Although I waited for this to settle before I took the top off, spooning this into these jars is going to kick up a little bit of dust. So if you get that in your nose, it's going to burn. So just be aware of that. Don't necessarily do as I do. I'll get these filled up and I'll show you what we have. Well, I got my jars filled, so now I just have to put caps on. So I figured I'd give you a little tip. You can get the caps that are made for ball jars, and they come in standard size and wide mouth, so no matter what kind of jar you have, you can use these caps. The other thing you can do is keep an eye out if you purchase mayonnaise or tomato sauce or anything else that comes in a jar. This is a very common jar size and thread, a regular ball jar. Check the lids, because there's a good chance that it's going to fit, and it fits nice and tight. It's made for this type of jar. So anything that you're going to throw out in the recycling, double check those lids. And then the other lid you want to keep an eye out for, if you buy shaker cheese, Parmesan, Romano type shaker cheese, usually the lids for those will fit ball jars perfectly. Great bonus, especially if you're gonna use it for your crushed red pepper. You can scoop from one side and you can use the shaker on the other side to shake it out onto your pizza or spaghetti, or whatever you're trying to spice up. But anyway, that's it for today. This is gonna go on our pantry shelf for when we're cooking. These are gonna be for the chickens. And I'll add this to their supplement just to help keep them worm free. If you like the video today, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not. Share it with your friends. And until the next video, see ya.